Michelle, and this is my presentation on chapters 6 and 7. Kant begins section 6, titled The Universal Problem of Pure Reason, by introducing what he thinks is the actual universal problem. He formulates this problem into the question, how are synthetic judgments a priori possible? Kant believes that to solve this problem, we must first elicit a downfall of what we know to be metaphysics. Kant acknowledges that David Hume has come very close to solving this problem, but he failed to solve the problem in universal terms. Kant believes that Hume fell short in the fact that he did not believe that cause and effect were a priori systematically related. Kant's problem with Hume's investigations is that by Hume's definition of pure reason, everything that is considered metaphysical science must be a delusion. Kant argues that Hume's views suggested that reason was a result of borrowed experience and that habits manifested themselves as a necessity. For Kant, Hume's view does not solve the universal problem of pure reasoning. Kant feels like Hume's view on pure reason was destructive to pure philosophy, but Kant does not ridicule Hume because of the fact that Hume failed to see the problem in its universality. Kant acknowledges that Hume was failing to see a critical part of the question, but had he perceived this missing piece, his views would have been even further from the truth. Kant says that if Hume had seen the problem of pure reason in its universality, he would have committed faults such as denying the existence of any form of mathematical science. According to Kant, Hume was saved from this absurdity. After acknowledging Hume's shortcoming, Kant goes on to outline how, in fact, his question, how are synthetic judgments a priori possible, will be solved. Kant believes that once this problem is solved, pure reason will be used in the foundation and construction of all sciences which contain theoretical knowledge a priori of objects. Kant introduces two important questions that he believes will lead him to be able to solve the universal problem of pure reason. The first question is, how is pure mathematical science possible? And the second is, how is pure natural science possible? Kant backs up and acknowledges that both of these sciences are definitely possible because of the fact that they simply exist. However, he says that the current conflicting views of metaphysics by the philosophers of his day may give one the liberty to doubt the existence of these sciences. Kant also admits that if one does doubt these sciences, they do have a good reason. Kant believes to solve the problem of how metaphysics should be viewed in an effort to prove the reasonability of the existence of sciences. Kant believes that we must consider metaphysics as a natural disposition of the human mind, meaning that principles of metaphysics are naturally instilled into our minds and require no critique. He proves that some form of metaphysics has existed in every man by noting that certain questions have been solved that could not have been solved by simply using empirical application of reason. There must be something else at work to solve these problems. Kant believes that there always has been and always will be a form of working metaphysics instilled in the human mind. Kant knows that principles of metaphysics can be found in the human mind, but he is not sure how they got there. So he brings forth another question. This time his question is, how is metaphysics as a natural disposition possible? Kant is asking how questions about the nature of pure reason come to be questions. Kant says that all questions about reason that, by its nature, have prompted themselves, have so far been unsolved with much contradiction. Kant gives the example of whether or not the world had a beginning, or has it existed for an eternity, to illustrate these contradictions of reason. Kant says that to solve these problems involving much contradiction, we must not rely only on our natural disposition to solve problems with metaphysics. He says that we must employ a new faculty of the mind, one which allows us to know when to extend the bounds of our pure reason and when to set strict limitations on the bounds of our pure reason. Kant believes that to employ this faculty and to solve the problem of when to extend or limit our knowledge of pure reason, we must hence ask the question, how is metaphysics possible as a science? Kant's critique of pure reason has finally led back to science. Kant says that this science does not have anything to do with the objects of reason, but with the fact that reason itself has created its own problems. Kant believes that we will only truly understand the objects of reason when reason can understand the complexity of its very own power. Kant believes that because of this logic, We must disregard all previous attempts at making a dogmatic metaphysical belief as non-existent. He deems analysis as an improper way to dogmatically accept metaphysics because of the fact that analysis only shows what is contained within a metaphysical belief and not how we can a priori arrive at such a belief. Kant once again notes that up until now, no one has gotten metaphysics right, and he also acknowledges that it will take much more firmness in his metaphysical beliefs to dogmatize them. Section 7, titled Idea and Division of a Particular Science, under the name of a Critique of Pure Reason, gives Kant the opportunity to encapsulate all that he has thus far said. Kant believes that he has assessed the idea of new science called the Critique of Pure Reason. Kant believes that reason alone is responsible for allowing us to understand and develop new principles of knowledge a priori. Kant believes that for reason to function in understanding principles of knowledge, we must implicate a specific set of principles from which, as Kant says, all cognitions a priori can be obtained. Once we implicate this specific set of guidelines and principles, we will have laid a preliminary foundation to a concrete determination of pure reason. Kant does not intend to doctrinate this preliminary foundation for pure reason because he thinks that it will lead him to error, so he settles on calling this science a critique. Kant sets out to define all the knowledge he has so far gained. Kant introduces the term transcendental knowledge. He uses this term to describe knowledge that he has gained about objects through cognition. Kant determines this system of transcendental knowledge should be termed transcendental philosophy. However, Kant determines that transcendental philosophy is outside the bounds of his science of critique of pure reason. Kant says that the aim of his critique is not to extend his knowledge, but rather to rectify previous flawed beliefs and to give guidance in a new direction. So therefore, he is not concerned with doctrinating transcendental knowledge and transcendental philosophy. Kant's hope is that the preliminary foundation that he is outlining for understanding knowledge a priori will one day analytically and synthetically justify itself. Kant wants to clarify that he does not seek to understand or explain the nature of objects, but rather to determine the cognition of objects a priori. Kant believes that he is more justified in determining how the mind functions than with the properties of objects. Kant believes that transcendental philosophy encapsulates all that the critique of pure reason sets out to accomplish. However, transcendental philosophy is not the science itself because of the extent of the analysis that it provokes. Kant believes that the most important thing that must be addressed is that all a priori knowledge which is conceived must be completely pure. Kant notes that principles and foundations of morality must be excluded from transcendental philosophy because they are of empirical origin. Kant divides transcendental philosophy into two subcategories: the doctrine of the elements and the doctrine of the method of pure reason. These two subcategories will define the two sources of all of human knowledge that Kant believes that exist: sense and understanding. This conclusion by Kant allows him to determine that all things are first perceived by, as Kant says, the conditions in which objects are given to us, and secondly, by thought. Thank you.